Hello and welcome back to another out-of-spec detailing video here from Clear Detailing in Northern Colorado. Instead of perfecting cars today, doing full washes on them, doing paint corrections, and coating them with ceramic coatings, we're actually going to be modifying my car today. This is my brand new 2025 Tesla Model 3 Performance, and as you can see in front of me there, we have a full Mountain Pass Performance Sport coilover setup. We're going to be installing it on my car today. We're going to first talk about why the heck I would be doing this, because a lot of people love the new suspension on the Model 3 Performance, and we're going to go through and install. We're going to hang out with my dad. It is actually Father's Day today, and one of the things we enjoy doing is wrenching on cars. We are by no means professional wrenches. My profession is perfectly cleaning and detailing cars, but I do enjoy the occasional tear a suspension out, put an exhaust system on. We've done a lot of that in our days. So join me as we modify my 75-mile Model 3 Performance. Now, I think a lot of people are going to have a lot of questions. Why would be taking the newly redesigned, pretty awesome suspension, in all honesty, out of the new Model 3 Performance and replacing it with something like the Mountain Pass Performance Sport coilover setup? First off, I have to say, for 99% of the people, the new suspension is actually really impressive. Tesla on the Model 3 Performance has actually installed an adaptive suspension, meaning that you can have it quite soft and plush and really comfortable for a daily driving characteristic. Then you can bump it up a couple of notches and put it into the more sport suspension. It firms everything up, but for me, it just didn't go as far as I would necessarily like. This is not a daily driver for me. And one thing you should know, anytime you're changing tires, wheels, suspension components, there is always a compromise somewhere. For example, if you're running on a more economy tire trying to get range, you're of course going to lose grip. If you switch over to a very sticky summer performance tire, you're going to of course lose range but increase grip. Kind of the same thing happens here with the suspension. We are going to actually probably make the comfort of the car quite worse, but gain a lot more in fun of enthusiasm and more fun on a back road or even a track setting. Now, this is not a car that is going to be absolutely thrashed on track. I probably will take it out on track, especially out in North Carolina. If you guys didn't know, Kyle and Alyssa and a few members of the team are actually moving out to North Carolina. I will be staying here in Colorado. Of course, I've got a detailing business. My wife works here in Colorado. We just bought a house a couple of years ago. So for us to move is a little bit more challenging. Nonetheless, the whole reason we're doing this is, number one, I want to get this car lowered. Now, there are a few different ways you can actually lower a car. One of them, and one of the cheapest ways to do that, is actually putting on a lowering spring. Now, in my past with the many cars that I've owned and the many different suspension and modifications that I've done to it, I have never been happy with just a spring conversion. The reason being is you are reducing the full travel of your actual strut because you are making the suspension sit lower. Naturally, it's going to ride harsher. You're 9 times out of 10 changing the spring rate as well, which is not really tuned for that OEM damper. Now, again, I really think for most people, this OEM setup is really impressive. But for me, I don't really want to go just to a spring to have the OEM damper control that the Model 3 Performance has in here. I personally don't feel that this suspension is necessarily worth the performance connotation that Tesla gives the Model 3. Again, everything is a compromise. If they were to put a huge hardcore suspension in this thing that would be extremely fast on a back road, extremely fast on a track, a lot of people would complain for daily driving characteristics, and I totally understand that. This is a mass market car. Most people are never going to track their Model 3 Performance. Most people, shout out to my friend Brandon Tesla Flex, is going to buy a Model 3 Performance and use full self-driving pretty much everywhere you drive the car. For me, this is a fun car. It's a 500+ horsepower car, 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds. I want to go enjoy that. So putting in that suspension is very much going to help. So I hope that clears up a little bit of why I'm doing this to the suspension. And for me, Mountain Pass is one of the tippity tops in terms of performance mods for Teslas in general. I have actually had other coilover systems, and I had springs on my last 2023 Model 3 Performance, and I wasn't really happy until I got to the Mountain Pass Performance Sport coilover system. Now again, the Sport coilover system is really aimed more for enthusiast driving. They actually have a comfort option, of which I believe Kyle actually runs on his 2019 Model 3 Performance. He kind of did a different build on his car. He actually lifted his car, put the comfortable suspension, wanted to make like a little bit of a rally car. He's been extremely happy with the Mountain Pass suspension on his. And then of course, our friend Timon purchased a used Model 3 Performance, of which pretty much every single suspension component was blown out, it was old, and he replaced it with a full Mountain Pass Performance Sport coilover setup and totally transformed the car. That's what I did on my 2023, and I was really impressed with the suspension. Again, what you're going to lose here is daily driving comfort. There is really no way around that if you're going on the sporty edge. Everything is always a compromise, so I hope you understand that. Maybe you want to take the jump into the coilover setup. You could definitely start with Mountain Pass Performance Comfort Suspension if you're more daily driver focused. Now this car will not spend, again, as much time necessarily on a back road or on a track, but when I do go up on a Sunday and want to go rip up a canyon, I want to have a suspension to match that. Is it a little too extreme? Absolutely. I'll be totally honest with you. This wheel and tire and suspension package is way over my ability at driving in terms of how hard you can actually push this car. Now, Kyle would be able to get in this and, go 10/10 and really max out the car before his driving capabilities. I'm kind of on the opposite. But again, I want to go and take this car on track, learn all of this stuff a little bit more, but nonetheless, I'm really excited for this. So what we're going to do today, my dad, like I said, is heading over. It's Father's Day today. We're going to be wrenching on the car. Again, we are not professional wrenches, but we do have a background of working on cars. I've been around cars my entire life. I've worked on many of cars with my dad. So it'll be fun to just hang out today, can swap on the suspension, see how this thing is lowered, and take it on its first drive. So let's jump into the suspension install. I want to quickly show you the suspension here before we get into actually installing it on the car, talk about a few of the components here, and talk about why we have some unplugged performance stuff over here versus Mountain Pass. So this is the actual suspension setup. So as you can see, this is the front full coilover system. Now the great thing about this, of course, you have ride height control, but you also have bump stiffness down here and rebound at top. So the very cool thing with this car is you can basically tune it down to be quite a bit more comfortable. Then you take this car to the track, turn everything up, and this becomes a very hardcore machine to go rip around a racetrack. Now at the rear here, we actually have what they call a divorced coilover, meaning that the spring is separate from the strut. I'll show you what it looks like actually on the car. Here at the rear, you still have your bump and your rebound up top, which is extremely cool. And then over here is where your spring actually sits. Now, Mountain Pass, as well as many others in this kind of category with the divorced spring, have this adjustment panel. So this is actually how you adjust the ride height of it. Basically screw it down, that's gonna extend the length of it and make the suspension taller or shorter, whichever way it goes. Now, over here, you'll see this billet aluminum camber arm. Now, anytime you lower a Tesla, pretty much in general, or most cars, you're naturally, when you lower the car, going to get some camber. That's going to increase tire wear. Now, there are different reasons why you would run more camber, especially if you're doing more of a track car setup. You would actually want some negative camber on the car. For me, this is really a car that I'm going to have on back roads mostly, a track day here or there. So we're going to run mostly as close to not crazy negative camber on this. Now these are already actually set to what my last Model 3 Performance was on this same suspension. So we shouldn't have to do much with that. We will still have to get the car aligned because naturally your toe is going to get a little bit out of whack, and caster as well. Now on the Model 3s, there is not really much you can do on the front end in terms of camber adjustments unless you get something like the Mountain Pass Performance front upper control arms, of which are really cool. You can literally slide out these plates and change the camber when you show up to a track day or whatever. Now, if I'm being honest, I really wish I would have the Mountain Pass full setup here for the camber arms. I like the design quite a bit better. These are a little bit harder to adjust, but if you take it to a reputable shop that knows what they're doing, they'll be able to adjust these no problem. I just think a lot of people, from what I've heard, that are more professionals and understand suspension more than me, say that the Mountain Pass ones are better, they're easier to adjust, and are less prone to basically things loosening up here. So next over here, we need to talk about this little box. And this is one thing that you have to have for the new Model 3 Performance if you're swapping out the OEM dampers. Let me explain. So over here, again, you have this electronic damper. You can actually see the controller there, the wires that plug in. That was not there on the previous generation Model 3 Performance. You have that both front and rear. Now, the thing that happens, as you can see that sitting right there, if you actually just remove that and don't plug anything into those wires, the car will go into limp mode. So what these basically do, if you read on the back here, adaptive suspension error canceller kit. So these basically send a little signal to the car saying that, yes, the OEM damper is here, we're still good, it will keep it out of limp mode. So the one reason I went for unplugged here is because they're cheaper. I'll be honest, Mountain Pass has a crazy price tag on these compared to unplugged. Mountain Pass wants $680 for basically these little canceller kit that basically have a little chip in there. They've got a plug. You're never gonna see them. Unplugged Performance, $395. So for me, a product that I'm not gonna see is not gonna change the driving dynamics of the car. I had to go the cheaper alternative. So that's why I went there. Nonetheless, this is gonna be a fun video, not necessarily a full tutorial on here. My dad's on his way over here now, but I think we're gonna start on the rear suspension first off, because really that's the easier one to do. Because really on the front here, if you can see all the way up there, we have to get that OEM top hat off to actually go over here onto the Mountain Pass Performance suspension. So let's get to wrenching. So first order of business down here, we're gonna remove this 10mm bolt. That's gonna allow access to actually remove the strut. Now we're ready to remove these two 21mm bolts and nuts on the other side. So what I like to do here is put some load on the suspension going up with a jack stand. Helps if you kind of have an extension like this. For me, this is always a little bit tricky to do, but I'm gonna put my breaker bar on this side. Then we can very gently lower this cradle down. It's a little hard to see in here, but we're gonna pull this all the way out and pull the connector off. Now also, over here, we wanna ensure that we actually remove this. So that'll leave the strut completely empty like that. So next, we're gonna come up here, unbolt these, and actually drop the strut completely out. Up here, we're gonna grab a 15mm. Gonna loosen both sides of these. This one's tucked a little bit in there. And that's gonna drop that all the way down. Quick side note here, if you're doing this by yourself and have one hand like me, which most people have too, I like to put a jack stand under where this falls so it doesn't completely fall to the floor and you don't break anything. Next, we're gonna remove this entire spring here. So as you'll see, this is on some tension here. So it's pretty easy. You can actually just pull this down. It's under a little bit of tension, but not too bad. And then boom, pull the entire spring out. Now over here you can see we have our OEM spring, we have our new Mountain Pass suspension on this side. Now you do want to use the OEM isolators. This is an extra one that I purchased on my last car because my last one tore coming out. So I'm going to remove this, it's a little bit dirty, and then we're going to take this off of here and swap it on to the new spring. Now you'll see there's this little piece here. You're going to put that right at the end. That should fit just like that. So the OEM one is now on the Mountain Pass. There we go, perfectly on. Now at your top hat side, or the top part of this, you're going to pull this rubber isolator off, set this spring aside, set it down here. Basically this slips into here, and then this goes right into this component here. Boom. Just like that. So the next thing we need to do here is actually remove this OEM top hat off of the strut and actually put it here onto the Mountain Pass setup. So it's actually pretty straightforward. You remove this rubber kind of gasket there. Then on the top in here, you guys will see it's got a little hex key there and a nut on there. Now it's important to have basically a pass-through socket set here so that you're not spinning the actual rod in there. If you just hammer that top nut on there, it will actually spin the strut. You can actually damage these by doing that. Now, if you don't know what a pass-through socket is, it looks exactly like this. So this can go right on into here, and then your Allen key goes to the middle. Now it can be a little tricky, especially by myself, to hold this while untorquing this. But again, this is really essential you do this to not spin the entire shaft that's in here. All right, so we got the top hat off here. So that will now go on the Mountain Pass side. You do not use the OEM dust boot, nor do you use the bump stop. They've already got that installed over here. So we've now got the damper tightened down up there, and we've also got these two bolts in down here. Now what's extremely helpful, also hello to Charlie, is to have your jack stand up here basically sitting right under the spring. You got to lift that up because there's tension on that lower spring perch there. Then you can get your big 21 mil bolts with the strut, and then with this whole front cradle, and then on the other side get your nuts in there. So the rear suspension is already on. It's really pretty straightforward, not too bad at all. Next, we need to come in here and focus on this arm. So we're going to remove these two 21 mil bolts and nuts. I was going to say nults. That's not the right word there. That'll be a pretty easy swap. So we'll get this undone first, as it'll have a little bit of tension on it, and then we'll remove this side. Sweet. So rear suspension on the driver's side, at least, fully done. New camber arm in there. Again, the length is already set where my previous alignment was. Again, that'll change whether the car sits a little higher, a little lower. I'm aiming to do basically exactly the same lowering that we have. So everything's looking pretty sharp in there. The only thing we need to do is still do the canceller kit. I'm going to leave that probably till the end, and we can just do all four of them at once. We'll leave this wire disconnected like this, but that is how you put in the rear suspension. Next, you will see us doing the front and all of Oliver's toys. Well, my dad now joins me. Happy Father's Day.
Hey, thanks.
Not the funnest day in the world to be working on cars, but we also enjoy working on cars, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we've done a lot of projects. You and your hot rods. You used to work on just wrench on cars all the time.
All the time.
Your knowledge and tool base has been awesome. That's why we've, been able to kit out the shop here. So we've already got the rear done. We've already got the driver's side front suspension out. We're going to show you how to use spring compressor, and then we'll show you how to get everything back in. So I want to walk you through step by step here of the front suspension. So first thing we need to remove is our brake line down here. This little bolt, a 10mm bolt. Then we're going to come up here and take our wheel speed sensor off. If you don't have a tool like this, this is the greatest thing ever. Watch how easy this is. So you stick this in, pull it, and pop. And then you're not completely destroying everything, so those little Christmas trees can go back in. do it up here as well. This one's a little bit more challenging, as I literally got it great the first time on the other side, and I'm failing. There we go. So that will now come off to the side. Next over here, we're going to remove this little guy from our adaptive damper. So that just comes right off. Back here you have a little clip that holds onto the housing. That comes directly off. Okay, now, so we've got our 10 mil here. We have our, what is this, a 15 millimeter, and this is a T50. Did we figure that out? T50, T55. Let's see what this is. That's totally fine. So T50 up here, 15 down here. We then need to remove the sway bar inlay. Now the other side actually spun on me, which I've never had it do. So you can use those open end sockets here, or the pass-through sockets, I guess. These will very much help. Then you can stick a Torx or Star, yeah, Torx through there, and you'll be good to go. And then last bolt down here is that 21 millimeter. Now, let me show you the most helpful tool on the planet for the front suspension of Model 3s. So this right here is a specialized socket. And as you can see, it holds, I believe this is a 13 millimeter, maybe 15, I don't exactly remember. Has a magnet in here. Now, let me show you where this goes. Actually cool, up here in the front trunk of the Model 3, you actually don't need to remove the whole plastic frunk insert to get the front suspension out. A lot of guys actually remove this entire silver cradle up here, which I've never understood why they do that if you can get it out like this. And the reason being is most guys don't have this socket. This fits directly into here. So you can basically just unbolt these three, leave that entire upper cradle up there, and boom, drop the suspension out. Makes your life so much freaking easier. So I'll leave this tool linked in the description. It's a specialized tool. The normal socket that fits up there will not work. So we've already got a few things done here. Let's get cracking on this 10 mil. We'll get the sway bar disconnected, the bottom one, this upper control arm, and drop the suspension. So once you break this 10 mil here, just completely unscrew this. This is a vital area during suspension. You really do not want to stretch this line or kink it or crease it or anything. So make sure that's pulled off, because once we unconnect all this, it'll get a little rowdy. All right, so we got this front upper control arm off. So the way you do this is once this bolt comes in, it's basically holding it in right in this area. You push down, pull the bolt out, and it's good to go. We've already got the 21 mil down low. We've already got sway bar off. We're disconnected here, disconnected here. This is disconnected as well. So last step actually is to go from the top, undo those three. This will drop down, and then we can shimmy it out of here. It's actually pretty straightforward. What I do here as well, just to protect the axle down here, I just put a nice microfiber cloth. So once it drops down, boom, you can do that. And for anybody telling you, you have to take this out, completely false. It's very, very simple to do it this way. All you have to do once this drops down, you need to push this up, get all of the top, I guess they're called bolts or studs maybe, around this, and then pull it out from the side. Does make it a little trickier with this piece. You can't come out from this side. You have to come towards the back of the car. Now that this is disconnected from the top, what you're going to want to do is push the housing towards the back. Then you're going to press up on here and get it out towards this side. Then you can just feed her out just like that and not get caught on the brake line like I am right now. There we go. Not too bad. So now that this is off here, what we're going to be doing is actually having to use a spring compressor, which is probably the least fun thing and probably the sketchiest thing ever to do. Absolutely hate doing that. The reason though we need it is to actually get the top hat off of here. So this actually comes off with the bolt under here. Then we need to reuse this on the mountain pass suspension. So it is quite sketchy. If you're not comfortable doing this, please take it to a shop to have them actually compress the spring, take this off. You can even take them your mountain pass suspension there if that's what you're doing. I'm telling you, this stuff, do not mess around with. Do not come in here and try and just pop this off, because this spring at least on the old Model 3 performances, you have to compress this thing about 6 inches. It is super sketchy, ton of tension on here. You can, yeah, shoot one of these off, kill yourself, hurt your car, or, you know, badly injure yourself. So please be cautious with that. But I think we've got this out and good to go. All right, so we'll try and keep Oliver out of the way here. But basically, one of the issues is I've seen a lot of people, even our friend Scott that works on Audis, he'll just come in here and pop this off. And this is under so much tension. If you were to do that, this could kind of explode. So what we're going to come in here and do is take our 19 mil. We're going to get this sucked up, basically make sure that's all in. And we're just going to crank on this thing. And what you'll see, boom, it's going to compress right in the middle. So now I've got my 17 mil. I'm going to come in here, quickly zap this off. There she comes. Pull that right out. Then we can get this uncompressed and pull this all apart. All right, guys. Well, we got the full front suspension back inside here. Didn't really film much of how this went on. Number one, we actually had the top hats on the wrong side, which was causing the angle to be a little wonky. So we had to take them back off, re-swap that on. So we've got these tightened up here. We've gone through, torqued everything here on the front. You can also kind of maybe see back there, way back there, the wires for the adaptive suspension have gone back there. And we've done the same here on the rear. They actually go right into there and then zip tie back to the back and there. Got the rear camber arms. So this is looking awesome. Huge thanks to my brother. Appreciate it. Huge thanks to my dad. Appreciate it. We've gotten everything torqued here. So next step is to get the wheels on. Then we get to lower it, and that starts the fun. Then we get to figure out our ride height adjustments and everything. Again, the front should be pretty good. I don't think the new car should change it too much. The rear, I definitely have a lot higher than I had before. So I don't know. We're going to have to play with the rear. And the rear is not the most fun to actually lower. But we're a little higher in the rear. Again, you always want to come down. So that is full suspension installed. Next, we're going to throw the wheels on and give it a test drive. Well, guys, here we are with the performance outside the following day with the suspension fully done. And yeah, looks pretty incredible. Absolutely thrilled. I mean, the car literally looks like a totally different car. Just getting the ride height adjusted on it. Now, I completely understand this is probably too low for most of you. And you're like, wow, it's just way, way too low. Totally fine. I like my cars low. Actually, this is exactly the same ride height in all reality that I had on my last 23 Model 3 Performance. But yeah, pretty darn happy with it. So I would say next thing we need to do, we need to go take it on a drive. We need to talk about how it rides now, the different characteristics of this suspension. Just get a good, nice first drive of the car. What I'm anticipating is, of course, the ride is going to get a little bit harsher compared to what it was beforehand, but the handling is going to be just insane on this thing. So really looking forward to that. So let's get on the road and see how this thing's feeling. Well, guys, I have had some time to test out the new suspension, and yeah, I'm absolutely thrilled with this thing. So I haven't gone, crazy, been on a canyon road yet. I've been doing, some around town, some highway driving, and dang, this thing is surprisingly comfortable. So actually last night when I had this installed, I took my brother and my dad out quickly, and both of them were like, for how low that car is, I cannot believe how well it rides. You still have a lot of compliance in the car, which I think is probably one of the most surprising things. You would think with kind of this slammed look that I have that the car would be super bouncy and not have, much articulation, and that could not be completely more not the truth, I guess you could say. It is just, yeah, very refined. The car feels unbelievably planted. Now, again, I think, for 99% of people, is this the suspension you should do? No, probably not. I think most people are going to be completely fine with the, daily driving comfortability with the Model 3 Performance OEM adaptive suspension. I think it's great, especially for daily driving. It's just, for me, when you start driving that car and even throw it into a couple corners, you just really feel kind of the body roll on the car. And okay, yeah, you put it into sport, and for me, what sport mode just does is just makes the car ride slightly worse, and it doesn't necessarily feel any more capable in a corner. Now, I'm sure if you're on the limit, pushing 10 tenths, okay, yeah, you're gonna feel it a little bit more, but for me, the car just felt numb, I guess would be the best word to say. I don't know. I've been used to driving Model 3s with, either lowered suspension or on this Mountain Pass suspension, and just like the turn in of it, the way the car reacts to your inputs just feels so much better now. I mean, this is really more aimed towards like enthusiast type driving, which is what I do with this car. Reality is, yes, this car is full self-driving capable and yada, yada, yada. For me, this is a car that I just want to go have fun with. This is not an everyday car for me necessarily, because I'll, have the dogs with me in the EV6 or whatever. They're not going to be going in this car. This is really my toy. And when I drive these cars, I drive them pretty darn hard, and I, enjoy the heck out of them. So that's been really the most impressive thing with this suspension. Is it now really feels like it's got more of a breadth of capability in terms of I can go have fun. And the great thing with this suspension is it's extremely adjustable. So I've got it, dampened down, the bump is turned down, the rebound is turned down right now. So it's more comfortable for daily driving use. I think most people would get in this car and go, wow, I think it's going to ride terribly. And I think most people would be like, wow, this actually rides pretty nice. And for me, it fits more of the characteristic of this car. You have the bucket seats, you have 500 horsepower, 2.9 seconds 0 to 60, track pads on this thing. Like, this is really a pretty legit piece of kit here. And yeah, I've been extremely impressed with it. So on the highway, dang, it's extremely comfortable. You guys even know in my last Model 3 Performance, I drove this car, or that car, I guess, 4,000 miles down to Alabama on a road trip. And even doing 1,000 miles in a single day, I did not get out of the car feeling beat up. I actually felt like, okay, yeah, I could do way more miles than this. So that's been the impressive thing with the Mountain Pass suspension. Now, again, I think a lot of people would question, why wouldn't you just go springs? I've been down the rabbit hole of doing springs on suspensions, and for me, I just always feel let down by them. I always have this expectation, and you always hear the marketing on them that, oh, this is going to ride, sometimes better than stock, and they never end up doing that. And the reason being is because Tesla does spend a lot of money on a suspension like they had in this car from day one, where they have tuned the damper to work with the spring. When you change the spring, when you basically limit the overall travel of the suspension, things start to get weird. You put in a stiffer spring there and lower everything, it changes the whole characteristic of the car. So on something like this, the Mountain Pass suspension, which if you didn't know is, yes, made by KW. I believe these are like KW V3s, not like super, super crazy, but very up there in the KW range. You have just everything tuned together. And that's why you can have a low car but still have daily driving comfort, and then go tear it up on a back road, and then go tear it up on a track. It's just unbelievably impressive. Now, one of the things I am completely blown away with this, so we've of course done a few things with this car since I've really driven it. I haven't even driven this car with the wheel and tire package that is now on it. So again, we're running Martian MW05s. This is the original factory Model 3 Performance size. So I believe it's a 20 by 9 or 9.5. I'll have to look at that. I may put it here in the video. I don't remember. The plus 34 offset, again, running 15 mil spacers on it, and then running a 235, 35, 20 front and rear. Now, I think a lot of people also would be like, why would you not run super thick tires? Now, eventually, I would definitely love to upgrade the wheels to run, a wider, like a 275 square setup on this car. For me personally, I don't love a staggered setup in a car. Number one, naturally, you're going to have less overall grip on the front, hence a little bit more understeer. When you do a square setup on a car, it's a little bit more movable. So you're going to get the rear end out a little bit more. Really fits my driving characteristics and what I enjoy about a car a little bit more. The other thing is just comfort of being able to actually rotate tires properly, so you can properly rotate them without having to swap back and forth. I know a lot of people have said to me, you know, I want to get winter tires for my Model 3 Performance, I want to do the OEM size, and you go to something like a Nokian Hakkapeliitta, which is a directional, or I believe asymmetric tire, and you can't rotate them because you can't move them side to side because then the tread's backwards, and you can't move them front to back because of the different stagger on it. To me, I just like running a square setup. It really checks a lot more of the boxes. But the craziest thing about this, moving from the all-season Pirelli Scorpion MS tires that were on this car to the PS4Ss, the car is unbelievably quiet. And it feels like they have like less rolling resistance, which is just crazy. And I know Kyle said when we first drove this car, he's like, listen, you got to break in the tires to give them a fair shot. But I could not believe how loud those tires were from day one. For me personally, like, it felt like the car was not on an OE tire. It felt like you got one of the cheapest tires off Tire Rack and just slapped them on there. It felt terrible. Now moving to something like the Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, the car has just, number one, woken up. It's gotten quieter. It just feels smooth throughout. It's unbelievable. This suspension setup, though, with everything, the wheel, tire package, the suspension, I'm absolutely thrilled with it. Absolutely love it. Again, I've done highway, uber comfortable. In town here, I'm not getting jostled around. Okay, yes, I'll be the first one to tell you it's a little bit firmer than the factory suspension, and I'm totally cool with that. I like a car that feels the road. I don't like to just have every single bump and thing dampened out to where I don't really know what's going on with the car. And personally, that's kind of what I felt with the factory suspension. And a lot of people disagree with me, and that's totally cool. You can do whatever you want to your car. I'm going to do whatever I want to my car. So next thing I'm going to do, we're just going to take it up here, up to Horsetooth, just get it around some turns. We're not going to go super crazy, especially at Horsetooth. I don't think I have time today. Yeah, definitely don't have time to take it up Risk Canyon. We'll probably do that a little bit later. I'd like to get the suspension settled in as is and not put too many miles on this car before we do an alignment. So it's good to have different speeds to go over some bumps to get the suspension all settled in, and then I'll book an alignment appointment. I can already tell you the steering wheel's a little crooked. It was actually a little crooked from factory. So yeah. All you need to know about the suspension, I'm blown away. If you ever see me around and you're like, hey, I'm really interested what that Model 3 Performance suspension is like on there, I will happily give you a ride so you can experience this, because I think it's absolutely insane. And it's really insane when you start pushing the car a little bit. Well, you guys now join me at Horsetooth Reservoir. Just went and carved up some back roads in the new Model 3 Performance. And yeah, this thing is just beyond belief what this car can do. I will 100% tell you this car has way more capability than I actually have driving skill. So yeah, definitely going to want to get out on track, especially in North Carolina with Kyle at the new track, and have, yeah, just the best time with this car. I am over the moon excited with this suspension system here, and also take in these beautiful Colorado views here at Horsetooth Reservoir. It is just, yeah, one of the coolest places ever to come up here, watch a sunset. You never want to be flying through here, so we're doing the speed limit, if not under right now, not trying to set any land speed records up here. Had some fun on some other roads though, and just beyond blown away with this car. So really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope a little of this makes some more sense on to why I removed the factory suspension from the new Model 3 Performance and replaced it with something that's a little bit actually more performance oriented. Anyways, we'll see you in another out of spec detailing video very, very soon. Bye-bye.